Rev up your engines!
Here's some of the worst cars that will break down the most that I'd advise you not to buy. The first is the 2021 Fiat 500X. Believe me, they fall apart in front of your very eyes. I had a customer buy one for his daughter years ago, and it didn't even make it to college before the engine blew up. Now, number 2 on the list is, not surprising, another Fiat Chrysler product, a 2021 Jeep Renegade, which of course is in reality a 4-wheel drive Fiat 500 setup that's called a Jeep Renegade. The reliability is predicted as 1 out of 5. That's pretty terrible for a $22,850 vehicle, if you think about it. Now, number 3, of course, we're delving into the things that people who know about cars understand, is the 2021 Land Rover Range Rover Evoque. Its overall reports in the past was 41 out of 100 from the Consumer Reports. They cost $43,200 base price, so you're spending a lot of money for a very small amount of quality. So stay away from those Land Rovers. Number 4 on the list is another one, a Land Rover Discovery Sport. It has 41 out of 100 score, and it's $41,900 and up. Believe me, you want to stay away from those things. I have customers with them in the past, and they were endless money pits as they age, so no surprise there. And number 5 is the 2021 Maserati Ghibli. What a stupid name. Well, it's a stupid car. It's rated at 42 out of 100, and it starts at $72,000. So if you want to throw your money into an endless money pit, go ahead and buy this Maserati. But if you care about your money, my advice, run far away. Last on the list of the top 6 worst vehicles to buy that fall apart in front of your very eyes is the 2021 Ford Explorer, which has a consumer rating of 42 out of 100. They start at 32.25. As per usual, I warn people not to buy those EcoBoost setups, whether it's the V6 or the worst thing on earth is the 4-cylinder engine with an EcoBoost in a big vehicle like an Explorer. You want to run away from those vehicles. So these are some vehicles that are some of the most unreliable ones this year, and I'd advise you to stay away from them. Balkan says, I'm looking to buy a brand new 2020 SUV, planning to keep it for 6 years, but I can't decide. 2020 RAV4 all-wheel drive, 2020 Mazda CX-5 all-wheel drive, or 2020 Subaru Crosstrek manual all-wheel drive. Well, you've done your research. You picked some pretty good vehicles. Now, if you don't mind driving a standard transmission, the Subaru can be a lot of fun, and you're only keeping it for 6 years. Generally, Subarus don't fall apart till they're 10, 12, 15 years old. There'd be absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. The other ones are perfectly fine vehicles. If you wanted to keep them forever, I'd get the RAV4, but if you're only going to keep it for 6 years, go ahead and get the manual Subaru. It's more fun to drive. Those Crosstreks are real handy for going around with the all-wheel drive and everything. That's a really good pick, especially if you're going to keep it for 6 years. I don't know why you want to keep something for 6 years. I'm cheap. I buy until generally the wheels fall off. Or I get a really good deal, like when I got my wife's Lexus. Then I sold her car to a customer whose Ford engine had blown up, and they were really happy to get a fantastic Toyota for $3,000. So, but if you want to buy new ones, go ahead and get the Subaru. Kai Jerser says, gun car hunting to consider now Hyundai Veloster, Honda Civic, and Toyota Corolla. But if the Hyundai Veloster will last at least 200 or 300 miles, I'll definitely get one. So what should I do? Well, any car will last 200 or 300 miles. You can buy whatever you want. I'm assuming you mean 200,000 or 300,000 miles. And there's no way the Hyundai will last that long like a Civic or Corolla. You get what you pay for. I have customers with Hyundais that are totally happy, but these are people who want to pay a little bit less, and they don't care if their car has problems after 100,000 miles because they don't keep them that long. But on the other hand, if you want to keep it 200,000 or 300,000, don't even think about that and get a Civic or a Corolla. That's the common sense thing to do. And I've kind of priced it around when customers are asking me so I can see what's going on. And really, Toyotas and Hondas really don't cost that much more than the Hyundais anymore. The Hyundais have raised their prices, and if they're near the same price, no way would I buy one. Used, you can get the Hyundais a lot cheaper. And if it's low mileage used, go ahead. You could save a bunch of money. You'll never get a cheap, good, low mileage Corolla or Civic because they're too popular. But with the Hyundais, you can. But brand new, don't even think about it if you're talking brand new. Six Pack to Go says, I got no idea this happens, but I got an 011 GMC Training. I turned on a windshield wiper, so the left blade didn't move, but the right blade went fine. I got out and there's no damage. What could it be? I can tell you what it is 99% of the time. The wipers go onto the linkage, and a lot of times on the top there, the bolt has just gotten loose. So the other side works, and that one, the bolt's loose, so the wiper armature is moving inside. inside, but the outside doesn't because the bolt's loose and it's just slipping back and forth. See that? Now, if it's not that, that means the linkage itself for the driver's side is broken. And you'll have to take all that crap apart and you'll see where the piece broken. Sometimes it's as simple as a plastic bushing and the linkage broke and then it fell off and you get a new linkage and snap it in. Sometimes you got to buy the whole linkage assembly, but pray it's just the bolt's loose. Often it's just the bolt that's loose. You tighten it up, and if you're going to do that, put a little Loctite on it first, and then it will lock in place and it won't come loose because they didn't put Loctite on a lot of them when they built them because they're cheap when they make them. They used to, but they don't anymore, and then they will wear loose over time. Anytime you put one of those on, put a little Loctite on it. Then it won't wallow its way out while you use the wipers. Balloon says, OCD help, please. I got a 2016 Mitsubishi 5-speed standard transmission. My problem is I have severe OCD every time I drive my car when shifting. I overthink it. I sometimes mess up, let the clutch out too early, too late. Days in my mind are somewhere else I can shift fine. I lose the enjoyment of driving when I miss. Do you have any pointers? It's very simple. Pay strict attention when you're taking off from stop because that's the critical part. Push the clutch in, put it in first gear, then feather the gas a little and slowly pick up the clutch. Now, once you're moving, shifting gears isn't that critical because the car's already got momentum going. Then just make a point to push down the clutch, go from first to second, then pick up the clutch. You're already moving, so you really don't have to worry about anything. Just make sure that your foot is down to the floor when you put it from one gear to the next. Once it's in the next gear and the car's moving, you can pick it up generally any speed you want. It isn't going to make all that much difference. And if you're like me and you really know how to drive cars, I can often drive cars in the other gears without even using the clutch by matching revs and shifting because I've been driving a long time. Don't try that. Just always remember when it's time to shift, first put the clutch down, then put it in gear. Then when you pick it up and you're already moving, it doesn't matter all that much. It's mainly taking off in first gear and backing up in reverse that you got to be real careful about. And watch my video, how to drive a standard car. Scotty, I made one in a new Mazda Miata. Gives you some real good tips. Chris, Scotty, I want your input. Should we keep a 2018 Kia Rio hatchback with an automatic tranny, 1.6 liter GDI engine with under 58,000 miles? Giving us zero problems, but I'm worried. Here's the thing. They generally are relatively trouble-free. For the first 100,000 miles, you only got 58,000. If you are curious, put it up for sale and see what you get offered. You'll probably find you get offered such a small amount of money, you might as well just drive the thing. It can still go for years and years and years with the mileage you're putting on it. If every 3 years you're putting on 58,000 miles, then, you can still get quite a few years out of it. But on the other hand, if you can get a lot of money for it, I'd say, yeah, go ahead, get rid of it and get a Toyota Corolla or a Honda Civic. But it can still have a lot of life, and you'll probably find if you try to sell or trade it in now, you're going to lose your shirt. You buy a car, and 3 years later, you sell it or trade it in, you generally, off goes your shirt. Unless you want to be bare-chested and lose a bunch of money, I'd probably continue to drive it. Sito says, Scotty, I got a 99 Nissan hardbody. When I stop the motor, the power steering fluid comes up and leaks out of the reservoir cap. It only leaks when the engine is off. It's building up pressure. When you run it, it's spinning and it's pumping. When you shut it off, it's building up pressure. The numero uno thing on that is change the high pressure hose. It's probably somewhat clogged up. And then when you turn it off, that pressure, since it's clogged up, backs up into the pump and makes it bubble out. So change that. Now, if that doesn't fix it, you'd have to change the pump because it would mean the pump is building up pressure inside and it isn't letting it go through. But generally, it's more often the high pressure hose. Change the high pressure hose. It should fix the whole thing. But if it isn't, then you have to change the pump. Could be either one, but the hose is cheaper and pretty easy to change when it comes down to it. Just do it when the engine's cold so you don't burn your hands reaching up in there and grabbing the stuff. It gets really hot and greasy and messy when you do it on a hot engine. Do it on a cold engine. BR32258 says, my Scion's airbag light is on. How do I turn it off or fix it? The airbag light comes on. That means there's a problem with the airbag system. The only way you can truthfully analyze is to find a guy like me with a dealer-level scan tool. There are theoretically ways you can turn keys and push buttons to get the codes, but 99% of the time that doesn't even work. You'll probably find out that there's a sensor that's gone bad somewhere. But you're never going to know without having a guy like me check it out. There's still somewhat generic trouble codes. Even when I get the code, I have to get my scan tool and do bidirectional testing to see, okay, is this, is it that? And it can get relatively expensive. If you do want to know, get a guy like me to scan it, see what happens. If you're in Clarksville, come over, I'd check them out free. I'd check it out and tell you, hey, here's what's going on. If you don't want to spend any money, seatbelts work really good if you keep them buckled up. As long as you buckle them up, they work. They hold you in place. So live with it if you don't want to spend some serious money. But if you want to find out, you got to have a guy with a scan tool to check it out first. Hooligan169 says, I'm doing an engine swap in a 70 Mustang with a Bear engine from Australia, and I'm using the ZF6 automatic transmission. Since it's out of the car, what should I do? I would change rear main seals, the side seals of the transmission. I would also change the rear main seal of the engine because you're saying the Bear engine, it's used, so you don't know. So I would definitely change all those seals. It's on the ground. It's easy to change the seals. Then you have to think about them for decades. I would do all that. I'd change the fluids and filters and all that. And I would just generally look all over everything and see what shape everything was in before I put it back together again. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.